About inverse functions, no talking in the back, please. Okay, let's start out with this graph here. So make sure you guys are paying attention in Leo. So we have 3 points. 3 points. And we're going to graph, what do you guys think? What do you see right here? What is this triangle? Make sure you're getting more so this and not me, okay? So you're going to graph this point, negative 1, 6. Negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you're going to graph negative 7, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2. You're going to graph negative 5, negative 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. Okay, you're going to connect your dots, make a triangle. I'm going too fast for you guys. I will slow down, but reading a video real quick. There's your original function that's given. It's asking for the inverse. How do you draw the inverse? Who can tell me what the inverse is, you guys? Inverse means opposite. It also means what? Split, swap, mirror image, reflected. So how do you reflect this blue triangle? Well, we're going to swap our x and y. We're going to swap our x and y. So 6, negative 1. Just swap the x and y. And then 2, negative 7, negative 3, negative 5. And then go ahead and plot those points. 6, negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down 1. 2, negative 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if I mess up, Alexis, make sure you catch me, okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm going to ask, I won't say names in the video, but I'm going to ask you, does this look like a mirror image of each other? No? It is. It's a mirror image, okay? So that's the inverse. That's how you do it. So inverse means to swap x and y. Swap x and y. So that's the visual. Let's go ahead and go to the beginning of our page. You're given these points here. Here's your original function. Here, f of x, for example, the inverse, what are we going to do with the x and y, you guys? Swap. Okay. So now you should have instead negative 2, 1. 4, 2. Negative 1, 3. Negative 2, 4. Okay, it asks us a question. Is R a function? Is R a function? Our original relationship a function? What does this mean? Does x repeat? Does x repeat? No. Correct. So it's a function. Yes, because x does not repeat. X, no repeat. No, no, no. Okay, is the inverse a function? You're correct. It's not because our x repeats, so no. It's not a function because x repeats. The next question it says, is R a what? Is R 1 to 1? No. Because neither, one is not a function. If both are a function, then yes, it's 1 to 1. If one's not a function, it's not a 1 to 1. No. Go ahead and try number 2 on your own. Give me the inverse. The inverse of this relationship. Give you a second to try that out. For video purposes, I'm going to go ahead and just do it. Help me out with the next point. What's the next one? Beautiful. Samaya, next one. Perfecto. Is R a function? No, because x repeat. If you see a repeating x, it's not a function. Okay, let's look at our inverse. Does x repeat? No, so it's a function. One of them's a no, so it's not a one-to-one relationship. We're going to move on. Try number 3 on your own, but we'll move on. Okay, moving on to the next page. Vertical test. We're almost done here. We're almost done, you guys. Okay, number 4. This original line. We'll call this f of x, so go ahead and put f of x. If you draw a vertical line through this black line, it touches it how many times? Once. So it's a function. This original one is a function. It's a function because it passes your vertical line test. Passes your vert test. Write that down. I probably should. Probably am in my mind. Okay, write that down. F of x. This line is a function because if you go like this, it only passes it one time. What about this? Is this a function, a circle? No. Passes it how many times? Oh, circle's not a function. It's a shape, it's a relationship, but it's not a function. Okay. The next question is the inverse of this line, so that opposite image, is it a function? How would you know? You would do your vertical line, your horizontal line test. Horizontal line, if you draw a horizontal line through this arrow, is it touch it once or twice? Just one time. There. Only crosses it one time, so your inverse function is also a function, yes, because it passes your H test, horizontal test. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, so we're going to move on. You can ask me after if you have questions. But horizontal line test means that the inverse of this function is a function because it passes your horizontal line test. Try 5 on your own. We're going to move on for video purposes. Make sure you guys have f negative 1 of x. That means inverse. So think about horizontal line for the inverse. So what if we're given an equation? What is it asking us to find? What does it say on your paper here? Find what? Yeah, find the inverse of each function. Gentlemen in the back, give me 1 second, please. So we just said to find the inverse function. We just did it with that little, thing. What do we do to find the image? Switch the x and y. So that's what you're going to do algebraically as well. Your first step, step 1. What does this step 1 tell us to do? Yeah, just rewrite it. Y equals. This means y. The same thing. Equals 5x. Okay. Second step, Eleni. Dos. Interchange. Is it interchange? Okay, that part. We're going to swap. Put swap in front of, instead of the interchange, whatever. You could put swap x and y. Show me your arrow. Swap it, swap it. There you go. Look at that. What's that second step, you guys? Second step, Leo? Second step. Just swap, okay? Make sure you know that. And the third step, you too, was what? Third step? Okay, you solve y. So the first step is y. Second step, swap. And then solve for it. So this means 5 times an unknown number. So undo your multiplication by dividing. Divide over here. So y equals x over 5. which is better to put 1/5 x is the same thing. Okay, go ahead and give me your soft answer. This is your inverse, the inverted form. I'm going to ask, what was our original equation? What's our inverted or inverse equation? Right? That's pretty easy. It's inverted. It's pretty obvious, you guys. Let's not write it this way. Let's give it the more scientific format. So make sure you write your answers inverse. The inverse is 1/5 x. And circle your real answer here. That's the real one. Our golden answer. Okay. We're basically almost done. Not yet. One last thing. We're going to graph it to make sure we did it right. So you can do it with me, but we're going to graph this in the green circle and then graph what's in this green circle. So we're going to go ahead and make a graph on our paper. Okay. Make a T, and we're going to go ahead and have this video zoom into Desmos here. Okay. So here is the first function, 5x. And what is it, the function we created? 1/5x, right? Okay, how do you know that those two are inverted? How do we know? How do we know? Pick a point. So let's make the first one purple. Any point on this graph. It doesn't matter. You could pick any point. Can you guys read what this says right here? What's that say? 0.42. Okay, so 0.42, you would write that down in your paper. And then what does inverted mean? Swap. So look for one over here that says what? 2, 0.4. That's all you do to make sure. So let's look at the black one. Do we see a 2, 0.4? Well, look. 2, 0.4. Almost there. Right there. What does that say? Oh, wow. So that black line, the other function, does it have the inverted point? It does. It has the inverted point. So make sure you're showing that on your paper. We're about to end the video in 1 second here. But make sure that you draw that out. Do your algebra and then show your work that this one has a, what is it, 0.4, 2? Okay, that's the original one. And then your inverted one, kind of like that, has a point as well. I don't like it like this. Can confuse you guys. It's 0.4, 2 for this one. This one's 2.4. You checkmate. Checked yourself that you were correct with your algebra. You're telling yourself I was correct. So you don't need me to check your work. Check it yourself on Desmos. I think that's it. So make sure you show finding the inverted function algebraically and also graphically today. I think that's it. And then one more thing. To do these problems like number 8, don't forget about your algebra. Remember, y equals. And what's the next step? Swap, correct. How do you undo this division of 3? So we're dividing by 3. How do you undo division? Times it by 3. So make sure you remember your steps, your operations. Undo it. So times this by also 3. What's the next step now, you think, to get y by itself? Yeah, it's just subtracting 8. So undo subtraction and do it over here. Use your operations to isolate your y every time. So there is your inverted. Now look at it. Look at the original. X minus 8 over 3. What does this say? Do you think we did it correctly? Does it look like it will be an inverted image? This one says what? This one says This one is, and this one's times. So maybe, you know, but check it graphically though. Make sure that you find the inverted points.
All right, I do want to show you one more thing about verifying inverses. So this question's asking you, is f of x equals x squared plus 8 of the inverse of radical x minus 8? So, write it down. You've got these two equations, these two functions. Are they inverse of each other? We just learned that you can graph them and see it that way by looking at the points and see if the points are swapped, x and y. Or you could do it algebraically as well. So your rule here, two functions are inverse if and only if f of x, f of g, we'll say it this way, f of g of x equals x, and g of f of x equals x. What does that mean, Miss S? So make sure you write that down. That means if you put g inside of f, it would equal the input. And if you put f inside of g, it would also equal that same input. That means they're inverses. It was like a little cycle. So let's try this out. So let's go ahead and put x squared plus 8 inside of this x. Make sure you show your arrows. Okay, so you've got x squared plus 8 minus 8. So instead of putting x, you're going to put this function over here. X squared plus 8 minus 8, and then do your math. 8 minus 8 is 0. You don't need those parentheses. What is the square root of x squared? Well, x times x gives you x squared. Then do it the opposite way. You're going to put this whole thing into this x. And make sure I see that arrow. This whole thing into this x. So instead of putting x, write this exactly how you see it, x squared plus 8. But instead of x, put parentheses, squared plus 8. Put this whole thing. Well, if you take x, the radical x minus 8 squared, add 8. This, when you multiply the same radical, you're just given what's inside. So radical x minus 8 squared is just x minus 8 plus the 8. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. Bingo, they check out. So make sure you know how to verify inverses algebraically by checking out that the inputs are the same. Let's do one more. I'll make up one. F of x equals 3/5 x plus 2. Is this the inverse? Let's see here. I have to make it up real quick. Is this equation the inverse of 5/3 x minus 10/3? It looks like it, but let's see. You could graph it and see if they're inverses by looking at some points and see if the points are swapped. Or you could put this into this x right here. Let's go ahead and try it out. 5/3 times 3/5 x plus 2 minus 10/3. So instead of putting the x, you're going to put this whole function inside of the x. This cancels out. You're left with just x. 5 times 2 is 10/3 minus this 10/3. This was the original equation, right? We're just putting this inside of the x. Then subtract the 10/3. That's 0. Okay, go ahead and put this inside of this x. So 3/5 times, instead of this x, put this whole thing, plus this 2. Cancels out. You're left with x. 3 times 10 is 30. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2. What is 30 divided by 15? It is 2. Add 2. 0. Look at that. These two equations are inverse. Make sure you can prove it algebraically.